We're 5 seconds, 10 seconds into this. Hello. We're not even 2 minutes early. Well, okay. Let's see. I don't expect anyone. Know, I need to get organized better. I tell people that I start, this, but no one wants to be. This is I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome to Messing Around on a Friday afternoon. It's afternoon where I am. I'm in Poland, Warsaw, Poland. It's around 6 p.m., so it's really evening, really. Maybe I should call myself messing around on a Friday morning and do it 2 hours earlier here, and then maybe you'll be in the U.S. So, well, who knows what I might do? I have to think about this. I'm kind of annoyed because if I wasn't doing this, if I didn't promise people I do this regularly, I would, be watching Rich Barris's People's Pundit right now, because he's at 6 o'clock. He does live streams like three times a week. And he's fun to watch in terms of. I knew about him, but I've been getting into arguments with people about polling, and particularly with people who are talking about Trump can't win. And no, I know, but this is the problem of this argument of high negatives, or this is meaningless, or that DeSantis has inevitable winning. And then when I go look at the evidence, saying no, it doesn't mean that either. Polling, the polling information is, particularly if you have the argument, but the polling doesn't work anymore because of, it's true, the polling has problems because of sampling issues, people, and Barris has been good using multivariate systems, small polls, more accurate polling. So I've been actually learning a lot from him. Consider him more moderate than I am in political sense. That's not true. I think I'm as populist as he is, and I've always had kind of a pro people, pro the people, pro the. I'll say this: in the 80s and 90s, I favored more libertarian positions, simply because I distrusted left-wing social policy, which I didn't think was working, and didn't do anything. But the free market policy went too far. So there was this. So Barris's podcast is on now. It's competing with me, and he's going to win because he's more interesting in that sense. So what about today? Well, there's no forum. I mean, I have no. I'll simply stay when I did this week and things like this. I submitted finally the start of September. Monday was a U.S. Labor Day, which we don't have in Poland. Labor Day in Poland and most of Europe is May 1st. The socialist worker unions. Right. I'm not a socialist worker union, but that's May 1st. Well, in America, Labor Day is the end of summer. Right. This is the difference. America, veterans, Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend at near the end of May is seen as the start of summer, right? And traditionally in America, it's at Labor Day is the traditional end of summer. Usually the beaches start closing. I'm New England. The beaches go. I used to love going after Labor Day to go to the beaches because it was free then, and you could go if you didn't have to go to work or a day off or something. And you could go to beaches, and the beaches are still good through most of the first 3 weeks of September. It doesn't really get cold until the beginning of October, but you can still go get if you have nice weather, nice sun. You can go there. You can enjoy a nice sunny empty beach, unlike during this summertime where it's like, I'm a New England boy, or Ireland. I'm used to beaches. I'm growing up at beaches. All summer, every summer, I went to my grandmother's house on the beach, near the beach. It wasn't near. It was about 2 miles away to the beach, and we could get there. And we go to the beach, stay at my grandmother's house if we wanted to stay overnight, 2 nights, and then go the next day at the beach. You have to go 30 miles back, 30 miles back home to where I lived. And I could go to a beach. I could go to a beach closer to my house, but that was Warwick in the Bay, Upper Bay, and that wasn't that nice. It was not. It wasn't ocean. It was the Bay, smoother. Um, so so this is Labor Day, the traditional end of summer, and that's said as a joke. And among social people, socialites, it's no you start wearing white after usually April, spring. It was usually what was it? Yeah, it was Derby time. Derby Easter. Yeah, Easter. Easter, you could start wearing whites. As Easter happens, and around the time of Derby, Kentucky Derby Day, you are allowed to wear whites again for spring and summer. Seersucker suits, whites, and that as of Labor Day, you don't wear whites anymore. White jackets, white coats, white things. You go. That's the traditional end of summer in that sense. So we had on Monday. That was Labor Day. Ended that. But ending with Labor Day also ended the American Political Science Association conference, which I didn't go to this year. Don't have the money and don't have the. I didn't have the money to go, and if I was going to go, I didn't want to go by myself, and I didn't have the money to go. Me and my wife, I could have probably gotten a grant to go by myself, but I didn't have a paper to present. And to be honest, I wasn't really interested in going there. Just going over there for like a week, no, that's not like 4 days to where I have no clue where it was this year. Who wants to go to a city like this? And I was okay, forget it. But that meant 2 days ago, they reopened the thing, and I sent my article out to the Journal of Politics. Yay! Let's see if Journal of Politics likes it. I haven't gotten a rejection lately. I'm crossing my fingers. Please don't reject. No, don't let me jinx it. Don't let me jinx it, please. I really want this article published by Journal of Politics or something like that, because that would, even though I could do it with a Polish journal, I don't want to have to edit it a little more and swing it. It's a good article. It's my riddle of the middle paper. Yes, about the middle class, interpreting that the discussion of politics before 11 is not really about a middle class regime, but about the problem of different classes, the danger of the problems of the rich and the poor, too rich and too poor, whereas the middle sword is not necessarily a different thing. It is that they have more resources. They're not poor. Okay, we talk about the multitudes versus the notables, right? The famous divide in Aristotle. So that is that. So that's out. I didn't honestly. I've been not feeling well this past. Actually, the past 2 weeks after I came home, I've been my stomach is I've been getting used to stomach issues and things like this. That it's more intestinal issues. Oh my god, which it's been uncomfortable in that sense. And I've been tired. I want to get a little stronger for the start of the semester. The weather has been kind of nice. I could have been outside, but I try to do this. And I'm starting my class at Norwich, my 2 classes at Norwich. I have a lot less students. I have about 2 students less than I thought I'd have because of financial aid problems, or student financial aid problems. So I have my history diplomacy course and my comparative European politics, area studies Europe. I one student of that, so it's kind of like, oh god, this is tough. And it's the start of the semester, and they're starting. The European students a little more. He's okay. It's all right. We'll see what happens. First week, you have to get into the flow of things. My Norwich University classes, okay. 2 classes are okay in that sense. I'll get a little bit of money, so I'll pay my Social Security and pay some of my American bills with the extra money. I don't have to send some money there, so that's kind of like makes life a little easier. I am worried about money. I would like to get, I wish I had some little additional earnings, but don't. I'm not teaching elsewhere in Norwich only, but Norwich is not as, the program has only, it's kind of take a hit after COVID, and and the recession and things like that is not kind of helped. Oh, but you're just, but these are usually military people trying to get their master's degree in order to get their, they're looking to either transition out of the army into either a job at the State Department or Homeland Security or Defense Department or something. They'll need some kind of advanced degree, and or if they're even in the military now, if you want to get beyond captain, you want to go to colonel higher, you need the master's degree also. So therefore, we have to look into that. So that's Norwich. I haven't started thinking about my Warsaw University courses. We're starting early October, the beginning of October. I should plan. I have a feeling. I'm just worried about one, the MA Research Pro seminar, which I feel that there's not enough students in the program, and that they're going to decide to close one of the sessions, but they need it. So that's weird in that sense. Um, I am kind of like a little leery of what's going on here. Um, I am just a little leery of some of the and what's going to happen there. Um, but it's not going to affect me much. I just do three classes around the four. But I need to set up the Moodle for them. I have to establish the Moodle. I'll wait till next week, and I don't even know if I'm going to be reviewing any BA theses or MA theses that they're defending coming yet. I haven't been notified. I haven't gotten notice yet, and I'm a little worried. My wife wants to go one more trip to her mother's house, one more trip for the summer to the mother house during September before the start of the semester. Spend like maybe 4 or 5 days down there. Um, well, that's, things like this. I still have a little writing to do. I play time writing. I have what to do with writing. I have to fix two. I have 2 articles. I have 3 things that I need to tweak. I should have done some last week. This week was a waste because I made maybe 1 or 2 videos. I did a video for Schmidt, and I did a video today for Rousseau. So I should have done 2 Rousseaus, but I just didn't feel like it. I'm having some my throat. You can hear my throat. It's like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll get the thing up. But we're ahead. I have all my next week's videos, and therefore the videos I was doing for the previous week. People are saying, "Well, why didn't you do some more videos?" You'll see that some of my videos have some of the first videos you'll see. I think the Rousseau videos of next week will have me with my big beard still. Okay. So that's that kind of thing. My videos were project. We're starting. We ended these. Okay, 2 things we ended. We ended my Then Ever series, the series on methodology, because which not many people were interested in. I thought more people would be interested in the sense that they, people who are interested in political science and some basic methods about this. I thought it would be useful to have kind of a methods thing. I will use this. I'm going to use the videos for other things. So it's going to be there forever. So yay! I'm going to I teach in the spring. I'll teach this, and I'll just use these videos saying, "Hey, students, you missed a class. You can go watch these." Um, um, so nothing I've done here is you wasted in that sense. And maybe someday someone will see that they might find something that maybe it's going to be there for like as long as YouTube is live. So therefore, that's that. So my current videos for next week onwards will start on the Rousseau social contract and Carl Schmitt's Crisis of Liberal Democracy, or the parliamentary, his book on parliamentarism. Okay. Um, So we're at the 50-minute mark, and voila, we're not, we're mostly done with what we're done in the sense that we're preparing. I'm going to be still working on my. I have a piece about force and fraud on Aristotle, book 5, chapter 4, that I need to finish up and maybe send to a journal, and then similar small things, chapter on the small things, and the small things as a cause of faction. Then I have my the thought, the four, my things that the minor changes that led to American change using that thing that I should. I don't know. I have to fix the introduction. I just have to spend like a 2 or 3 day. And I should have done something this week. I really should have done something this week. I apologize myself, kick myself. I just had no energy, and I had really no energy. It was really bad, and no one really to talk with, and that's the problem too. In that sense, there's no one really around I can talk some of these things with, and it's been very depressing in that sense. So, well, okay, that is that. So that's my writing, my research activity, my video making. I hope to get a little more productive. Maybe this weekend I'll get a couple, 4 or 5 videos done and get ahead of the game, get ahead of the curve. I want to get ahead of the curve. That's the goal. Get ahead of the curve. Get in the thought there. Some future plannings and videos. I think I'll do the Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I think I'll do Nicomachean Ethics after this. But for the modern, I might just do the ethics, and I might re-look at the Prince. Someone told me I should do a class on the Prince, and I want to. I always want to do a class on the Prince. I don't do it. I need to get off my ass, and have someone help me write up a proposal to do something for the Open University, Washington University, on Aristotle's, the Machiavelli's Prince, and I'll do that. It is something I think there'll be a lot of people interested in that. I hope. I think it's an interesting theme in that sense. It's fun to do the Prince in that sense. So now, one of the things I said, what I read and watched. Well, I'm still reading. We're finishing. I was supposed to be doing last weekend. I was supposed to have my second session of the birds, but there was people. A lot of the people in the reading group couldn't do it for some reason. So I think also one of them also kind of backed away this week also. But we're going to finish the birds. And I've been doing a lot of reading about secondary scholarship on the birds, and it's been fun doing the birds. And after that, I hope we're going to do with the knights. But I could do the Archaeans also, because we're going to be using, I don't have a good translation. I have a good translation of the knights, and I have this, which has the knights and the Archaeans. The Archaeans, I have the knights, I have a dual translation. I ordered the lobe, but it's got to be forever. I ordered the new lobe. I ordered 2 of the lobes. It will come, and I'm worried about the. Why are you turning to getting the lobe for? You have the other lobes. I don't have the new Aristophanes' new translation. That's really worth getting. I get that. Something that came last week. I didn't bring. It's still up upstairs in my apartment upstairs. It was up. It's the Claremont Institute volume published by Encounter Books, Up from Conservatism. It's a series of essays. It has 2 essays from Michael Anton, which are in. But one of the essays, let's look at this. I want to talk about this a little bit because I think it's no. Okay, it's the Encounters. There's another book by Michael Land, right? But no, damn it! It's going to give me all the thing. I don't want that. Hold on. And no. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to go look at this way. Yeah, it's Arthur Milnick, Milikh, Milnick, and why it's worth looking at. I don't. Okay, hold on. I just need to find the. It's like essays with Michael Anton. Arthur Miller introduces it. He also, what is it? He kind of co-wrote something about education with Scott, education, how to destroy and reconquer. All these essays are kind of like responses. The introduction by Arthur Milnick, the editor, um, um, a pessimistic case for the future, right, with Anton, and then the other essay by Anton is on foreign policy, I think. A repositioning, retrenchment, and restore the old and new foreign policy, right? But okay, those are the guys. Then there's two Anton articles. Joshua Michael and Aaron Rain. Aaron Rain is interesting because he's a Calvinist. I think he's a part of the New Reformer or some of this. But Joshua Mitchell is a professor at Georgetown and wrote a book. Recently he wrote many books, but one of the books he just recently did, American Awakening, about the wokeism in America. Why I think his conservatism in Protestant America, what went wrong. It's a very interesting article. David Goldman, who used to use Spengler in the 1990s on the discussion forums and First Thing and Postmodern Conservatism, his pen name was Spengler. Goldman writes stuff on Asia and currency and economics. His background is music, right? And he gives how conservative, so he's a China, what I call China hawk in that sense. And China's the great threat, and we have to get it better, and we're doomed. We're kind of a black pill and a red pill at the same time. And I have problems with. I liked him, but then I also have problems with him. He's also buys into a lot of narratives that I don't always agree with on the right, even though I'm sympathetic to some of them. I'm very pro MAGA, Make America Great, and Trump in that sense. But at the same time, I don't like the dummies in MAGA, and also the kind of Russia lovers, this. Seems like you've been in Poland too long, and I go, yeah, I have been. I know Russia is not, Putin is no one's friend, and just because he hates neoliberalism as much as we do doesn't make him our ally. In fact, his situation is not. Yes, he's anti-neoliberal, but he's an imperialist. He doesn't believe in nation states. So that's my problem with people at Goldman is that China is the real enemy and we shouldn't be wasting our time. But I'm sorry. This is using the analogy from Lord of the Rings. First, you have to beat Sauron, the first guy, before you can take on Sauron, right? You have to take on the lesser evil sometimes before you can take on the bigger evil. What's so interesting about this is two essays that really drove my attention here. Two essays that I thought really grabbed my attention was my friend from graduate school, Doctor. He's younger than me, a couple years younger than me, earning his PhD at different. He wrote his original PhD on music, which I told him to do that, and I encouraged him to do the topic on his PhD in music and political theory. But he then wrote. He's been spending the last couple decades dealing with Alexander Hamilton and Jefferson, and Alexander writing with Wilson. I forget his first name, Wilson. Wilson and Holloway have put together 2-volume edition for Cambridge of Alexander Hamilton's political writings, and he has written a very good book on the fight between Hamilton, and Jefferson. And Holloway's piece, Recovering the Real Foundation, Escaping the Destructive Myth of Propositional Nation, is a very outstanding piece. But I think it's so funny. Why did the Claremontsters put that piece in it? Because the propositional nation is the heart of the Jaffa position. So this is in fact arguing that that this is a destructive myth, the propositional nation. So I was like, Carson, why don't you come out of the anti-Lincoln closet? Now he's not anti-Lincoln. He doesn't go full farther, But to attack propositionalism is to implicitly attack Lincoln and the Jaffite position. And I thought this was a very good thesis about this. I think it's even a good defense of what I call I'll ask a whole other question. A thing that's been driving me a little while this week. So next to that, other than the Mitchell article about Protestantism, which I thought was interesting, the next piece would be the piece by the Canadian/British scholar Eric Kaufman, famous. If you know people know him, it'll be from White Shift. Demographic change in American instability, and that's a very good, powerful argument here. Again, working on his understanding of identity and group dynamics and how they deal with political instability. Eric Kaufman is one of these. He's in UK. He teaches at a school in the UK. He and Matthew Goodwin, who I have, his Goodwin's book about value voice, are probably two of the leading British political scientists who are talking about the problems of the breakdown of identity and the breakdown of things and the attempt between, let's say, global elites, a political class, an elite class who have nothing more very little, not nothing, very little in common with the societies they govern and they have authority over, and this conflict and have different interests. And that political and therefore demographic change and political instability destabilizes things. So I know. I mean, that's what I was reading the conservatism. The other thing is, my friend Glenn and I have this hate. I mean, we don't consider ourselves friends. We know each other. We were on the Strauss list back a long time ago, and we know each other through circles. I piss him off when I pick on Harry, his teacher. He's not necessarily his teacher. He came after, he wasn't a direct Jaffa student. He was influenced by Jaffa, but then more influenced by Jaffa's proteges. I wasn't. I studied with Tom West, and I suffered under Tom West. I was more influenced, even though I like the Straussians. I'm not a Straussian in this sense. Maybe I'm a Straussian. I was more I followed in the path of Kendall, even though I'm not a Catholic like Kendall was, or a Midwesterner, Southern. But back to Glenn Elmer's book, this new book, it's the Narrow Passage, which is a weird book, Plato, Foucault, and the Possibility of Political Philosophy in that sense. It's a little book, it's a small book, and I should have gotten this earlier this summer, okay? I was hoping to get it in August when it came out originally. But it wasn't available. I had to order from the United States to get it here because of in fact, I ordered it, pre-ordered it in Amazon Poland, and they said it's coming in March. What? If I look on the thing, it's supposed to be there 14 days in March. So I ordered the UK. I said, a week. Then a week, 5 days later, it says, it's not coming to February. So I had to pay. Now this is a gripe about this, but I got a deal in the book. I got it for like $5 cheaper than it was, but I had to pay $10 shipping for the damn thing. So it cost me more to get it now, and I wanted it. It's a small book. It's a good read. What's so interesting about it is that it is kind of looking at Foucault and saying that Foucault got, even though we may disagree, Foucault has a lot of problems with him. Foucault at least understood the crisis of the question about the COVID crisis, right? And the idea of using the state of exception and Foucault's whole thing about the discipline and punish and other discipline and punish, and one of the other things about I think it's discipline punish is the prisons, and then what is the one about the hospitals? I'm forgetting. Maybe if I just thought about it some more. I wasn't planning on talking about this really, but I said, okay, I'll mention it. I know a lot of the Jaffa students and some conservatives who have, because of COVID and the COVID, I call it, they go on a little too far in COVID, on the COVID paranoia. I'm not a Okay, I understand there's problems with there was abuses that there. And I understand that there's some idiots on the progressive liberals linked who want to talk about the Great Reset. And I think there is an attempt to they planned and envisioned such a reset, but is it really something that I mean? Yes and no. I mean, I think people want it, but is there a real is there really a movement to do this? No, I think if there was a reset, this is by that's another book which I should talk about. It's by Michael Walsh, Against the Great Reset. It's a very good book of essays. Um, I've always argued that I've thought that that's the reset already happened. It was before COVID. It was 2008. It was 2008, the economic crisis, the establishment of Obama, the capture of the state instructions, the weaponization of the law structure, and the whole way the Obama administration used the government to do this. And Trump was a 4-year aberration in the mind, but they could not. Trump could not never really get rid of the Obama era officials in the government services administrations who were sabotaging him day and night. And um, I think this is that whole thing about administrative state. I think there's a good argument for it. And those of you who followed my Schmidt stuff will know I talk about that. Schmidt does deal with administrative state as a connection to totalitarian, total state structures in the legality and legitimacy thing that we just looked over previously in that sense. Elmer's book is a very good read. It's interesting. I think he understates the difference. Like, I mean, the COVID guys followed Giorgio Agamben, and Giorgio Agamben's on Homo Sacer, which is a disorganized structure. Different books at a different time altogether. I disagree with a lot of his distinction of zoo and bio is just, the problem with Foucault is it's his understanding of biology is bad. It's more wheel based. It's kind of it's not really good biology in that sense. It's my biopolitics person coming up saying that this is a fucked up understanding of the human being in terms of the biological and derivative aspect of it, and this distinction between life and the body, and the whole body issues. This is the body. This is the disciplining punish aspect of the I call it the S&M character. Remember, if you know anything about Michel Foucault, he liked getting beat, tied up and beat up, and the S&M places, and particularly for homosexual men. He was infamous for that in his relationship in that sense. So therefore, there is this. I think you want to read about Foucault's. Look at Mitchell's book, The Passion of Michel Foucault. If you want to read about his lifestyle, Foucault is basically a modernized Rousseau, a Rousseau from the 60s and 70s, but even Hobbes on steroids, Hobbes and Kant on steroids. And I've always thought Foucault was interesting. There was some interesting. I mean, I remember when I was in the hospital, I thought about this myself. There is some truth to his point about the coercive character of someone in a hospital receiving care. That the patient is not, that has low autonomy in that sense. So there is a truth to it. This is the problem with people like Foucault, is that there's always a truth to a little. That's the problem with postmodernism, radical postmodernism. There's a truth to what they're pointing out, but then they blow it all out of proportion and double down on it and take it to its extreme, and then therefore, oh my God, then it makes no sense. It becomes kind of if you take their logical extreme position seriously, it's schizophrenia. It's great. Okay, that's the problem with this. And this is what I liked about he took something useful from Foucault to understand our crisis about the biology in terms of the COVID crisis. But I think be careful. That Foucault is not your friend, and you need to be careful. I know there's many people on people I know among the Jaffa students and some people of the we call they're not alt-right. They're not alt-right. They're just kind of the disenchanted black-pilled Jaffa students who thinks everything's a conspiracy. That you can't trust the Russian war because they got black-pilled. They got black-pilled by the Gulf Wars and the things, and they've now just so think everything's gone. The administrative state is horrible. It's all miserable. I call it it's everything is lost and it's hopeless. And black pill is a bad thing because everything's hopeless. Why bother fighting? Sometimes fighting, even if you're going to lose, is worth doing. Sometimes you might not lose when you fight and you preserve things. But back to some of them are very much influenced by a website called Fisted by Foucault. I used to have a good friend, Eric, who all because of Ukraine, we don't talk to. I think he'd even unfriended me on Facebook. He treated me as an unpersoned me, Eric did, because of our disagreement about Ukraine. He thinks, oh, you're just a Biden supporter. No, I'm not a Biden supporter. I think Biden has fucked Ukraine up, not because of how he's doing it. It's because he doesn't care. He just wants to get bought out by the Chinese and make sure the big dog gets money from the right people. Right? This is not about that. In fact, he thought Zelensky was going to get he offered him, come escape, I'll protect you. He just basically wanted nothing to happen. Like the same thing Obama did. Obama let it happen. And remember, Biden was Biden's point man in these things, and he let it happen in 2014. So, in fact, we can argue that what Biden did and the whole Buscema affair, again, people, but Zelensky's a neoliberal. Zelensky was not a neoliberal. Yeah, he's a globalist in the sense that he's a media personality, but he was Russian. He's ethnic Russian. Okay, he's Jewish or ethnically Jewish, linguistically Russian culture. He had as much popularity in Russian media circles as in modern Ukraine. He becomes a popular thing, and the Ukrainian nationalists in 2019 election thought he was a pro-Russian shill. This was the perception among very pro-Ukrainian nationalists, that he was really kind of like oh my God, Lukashenko's out, and we got this chocolate oligarch who's corrupt as things, and everyone's angry with the corruption, but he's not a Russian. He's ethnically Russian, but he's not. He was pro-Maidan, so he's not going to put he's pro being in the EU. But he's corrupt as hell. Whereas this guy made a whole TV show making fun of that kind of stuff, and the Russian ethnicities saw him as kind of a viable alternative. So if you know what the fuck you're talking about what happened in Zelensky and that, you can't make the claim that they're making about him. He's just a shill of the neoliberal. Yes, he's becoming a millionaire, a rich man, because he's stealing all that money from the U.S. system. He was a millionaire already from being his entertainment industry, as part of being a star, a successful media thing in the Russian sphere. He was a multimillionaire. Oh, his family has a villa someplace in Italy. Yeah. Show me Hollywood people and their villa. Okay. So this is, and like I said, Eric and I, I'm not going to be. Just because Biden likes something doesn't. If Biden says the sun comes up, doesn't mean the sun's not there. Okay, this is my problem with this. Hitler's bad. Everything Hitler says is reductio ad Hitler, right? So if Hitler says something good, it must not be good then, right? This is the same thing, that you're idiots and as a broken clock is right twice a day. The stupid morons can be right occasionally. Now, does that mean we have to say, oh, because he said it, we must say not it? That is Trump derangement syndrome. So come on, this is what was so annoying about this whole thing, and why I lost some friends about this. They think, oh, you're just siding on the cheerleader. You're just become an NPC. That's pissed me to hell off. I'm sorry, I suffered more than they did during the 90s because I was part of the traditional conservatives and not getting jobs and being blacklisted. Why do you think I'm in fucking Poland? I'm blacklisted. I was blacklisted in the U.S. in the 1990s. Jobs. It was horrible. It was miserable, depressing. The only job I had was at Central Connecticut State. It was a wonderful job. I lost it when the state reduced the number of general education requirements. I didn't need as many teachers, and since I was I was in the history department, not a political science department, because the political science department was too small. I was probably going to be hired full time as part of the Greek. The historian of Greek was going, and since I wrote on Greek and I'll get a book published, I was working to get a book published on Aristotle. I could have been hired as replacing him, and I taught the Western Civ courses, and I could teach them blindly, and I could do Greek culture and Greek history stuff. Not an issue. He actually was grooming me to replace him, and then as an internal hire. And as long as I was in part-time work, I would have been an internal hire. But now, once that was gone, it was not. We're gonna have an open search, and you're not a historian, so you don't get the job. That's one of the reasons why I kind of had to leave. I lost that job and had to work in the medical industry for 2 years. And even that, it was kind of annoying. I worked at a computer company for a year, too. Wow, before going to getting a job at a medical firm through part-time labor. So I mean, then that led to me finding a job in Central Europe through a school in the 1999. I spent basically January 1999 to August 1999 working at a school in Slovakia, American school out of Washington State. City University, Washington State, where I had a thing like that. And so I got here, and my friend from graduate school said, my Polish friend from graduate school, very good friend, George, said to me, come up here. Because he came to see me down there in Bratislava and stayed one time and said, because he works in government, in Polish government, and was going to an United Nations event at Vienna, which is one of the capitals of the UN, one of the UN's big centers. And he came to see me. We stayed at my place for a night. He got mad at me. I made some food for him, and of course, too greasy. I made home fries, my cheap home fries, and a hot sausage. Right? I was like, oh my God, it's too very greasy. And he was like, oh, no. So no. It was like, oh my God, this is grease pit. Like, sometimes, grease pit is fun, particularly in the morning gruel. So he offered me to get a job up here, and that eventually did Boston University. So, roll on. I've been here for now as of September 1st, I've been in this part of the world for 24 years. So that's neither here nor there. So why did I go on the diatribe? Dun. We're at 44 minutes. So what about this thing? It's a good book. I'd recommend it. It's a very interesting book for those on this. Like I said, I have. He gets mad at me when I pick on Harry a little bit. I call Harry Jaffa 4F because he was during World War II. Was my teacher. My Straussian teachers weren't. They went to war, and the people that they often criticized were the ones who went to war were GIs. Heck, even Norman Podhoretz, father of the neocon Norman Podhoretz, and Irving Kristol were GI. They were not going to say World War II, but they were GIs, enlisted men. In fact, they went into this army as enlisted men, and they. This is what's so funny. Unlike their children who didn't serve, they did, and they often served as enlisted men. They this is what and I've talked about my video, my comments about neoconservatives. This is why I don't really attack all neoconservatives. All neoconservatives are not the same. Norman Podhoretz has basically more sense than his, even though I disagree with Norman on some issues, on many issues. We don't agree on everything, but Norman is saner than his son, much saner than his wife. Okay, Midge was kind of really a little too dogmatic and like a true believer, a kind of Cleomestra on steroids. Whereas Irving Kristol's Gertrude Himmelfarb, she's the mode of scholarship. Great historian, fantastic political and social historian, probably one of the best Victorian British historians out there at that time, in the 70s and 80s, and maybe even the 90s, and at the end of her career with some of her more general books on things. Do I think she's an expert in everything? I think she understands English society to some degree and the British American culture better than her son and many of his friends do. Irving, very interesting fellow in that sense. I disagree. His foreign policy is not his son's foreign policy. He was much more kind of a containment guy, and if we're going to have doing with the Russians, and we're going to have, this is kind of Jean Kirkpatrick realist kind of approach, not this neoliberal Wilsonianism that his son accompanied under the Bush administration. So, I would recommend that. Up in Conservatism, I'd also recommend. What else I would read? I am waiting for Parvini's book, The Prophets of Doom. It got canceled. I had to reorder it. I'm hoping to get it this week. Maybe not this week, but next week. I'm almost tempted to write a review of both. I was supposed to write a review of The Populist Delusion. I did a video review of it. But now I'm tempted to do both these books together and write a review for Vogel & View or something like that. I'm just seeing about that. I think I want to write about it. I'm calling it the black pill. You can say, this is the black pill problem. This book is the beginning of academic agents black pilling. This is the kind of his previous book, Conditions of Freedom, is still, he has hope, he has some concerns, he has some negatives, but it's at this stage that he comes at this book. This is a very good book. I'm not criticizing that. It's a great introduction. It's a very useful. If you want to understand the so-called elite school theorists, you should read this book. As I said before, it's a very good introduction to these things, but at the same time, it's too negative. It's kind of like we have lost. It's inevitable that we're not going to. We can't rely on the people to do this. And it kind of, my reaction to that is no. Successful revolutions always require the people. Now, they don't spontaneous. Sometimes they need leadership. You're right. There needs to be leaders, but it doesn't have to have an elite. You create the revolution first, then you establish the elite, or new elite will emerge. As Machiavelli always says in The Prince, the great or the notables are made and unmade every day. The multitude, the people, they the same. And that's the secret of this, that whoever can get the energy of the mass, the people, and do this, can motivate that wave, that to overthrow the dominant paradigm in that sense, and to then use the people's mass to destroy, like all revolution does, to destroy the existing elite, wipe them out in the fundamental sense. Of this is what Tocqueville warns about. And Tocqueville points out in his Ancien Regime and the French Revolution, right? And This is what Hannah Arendt talks about in her Origin of Totalitarianism, or her reflections on revolution. These are very good books in that sense. Read, and this is all Machiavelli's insight about the dangers of an elite that becomes so contemptible that once the many no longer fears them, and that the many has the power to overdo it, they will be wiped out. And this is our elites. They're so contemptible and so hated that they're going to suffer. That was a thing. That was a good fight. I mean, Rich Lowry in a recent article in the New Republic talked about America isn't Rome, and I kind of responded in my Facebook page. You're right, America. Maybe Rich may be right here. America ain't Rome. No, rather it's France in the 1789 90s. As a Burkean, I hate the French Revolution. I think the French Revolution was disastrous, but it was inevitable. Once you had the French system and the system of power and the way it did, it was going to be that. The corruption of the aristocracy, the way it was so corrupted and so decadent and so despicable, that once the king lost the power and the mob grabbed control of the state, God help everyone. And this is my understanding of this. That's why the Up on Conservatism book is worth reading. And I think, and maybe reflecting, if I got it, if I went over there and walk over there to find my the Great Reset, I might have talked about that also. I think it's overstated. I think we have to understand that the Great Reset is the elite. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think the Great Reset will work because I don't think the majority of people will put up with it. They may be sheep, but they're not that much sheep. They're angry. As anyone who watched the Oliver Anthony's reaction videos of people to Oliver Anthony's song, "The Richmond of Richmond," he's not Oliver Anthony is not going to be a leader in that sense, but he is, and his goal is spiritual, not political in that sense. But this is there is a undercurrent of potential revolution here that is both, that either the question of will it be the right or the left who utilizes it to its effect. I don't think the left can, because I think the left hates the intellectual leadership of the left, despises the people. The problem with the conservatives are that they're just, as Rich Barris always says, and I think rightly says, they're either too stupid to corrupt, or was it too stupid to what was it? 1/3 coward, 1/3 crook, 1/3 stupid. Right? And I think he's right about that in that sense. This is the mainstream Republican, mainstream conservative in that sense. So that's been what I've been reading in that sense. What I've been following, I've been the Rich Raleigh piece, which I just talked about, but I thought that was a kind of shitty kind of piece. And this kind of, we're not like the French. All these people like Michael Anton talking about the Roman Republic fall, and therefore the fall of America are just wrong because these conditions. No, it's worse than you think. I felt like saying to them, no, step out of it. This is denial. This is the whole debate that's happening now. What they call this freedom, the Freedom Caucus, and its what do you call it? Not memo, manifesto. The Freedom Manifesto that it was put out, kind of an attack on the National Conservatives. And one of the authors, last name Roy, it's so funny that his name's Roy. He's like the pump. His name is Roy. He's royal. Okay. I want to just make fun of that to a degree because he's elite, man. Oh no, we believe in freedom. Free markets, individual freedom. And I felt like saying, and these national cons, they're bringing in this alien ideology from Europe. They're too much influenced by Viktor Orban and his fascist. Now, this is silly. I mean, I like Viktor Orban is not a fascist. He's a populist. He's Hungarian. I don't necessarily agree with him on Ukraine. I think he's basically it's Putin because Hungary, all of its energy depends on Russia, and because Russia has given him such good deals that he's been able to achieve his social policies and not pay for it economically because of subsidized energy from Russia. But he's a hostage. And the second, if he tries to deviate from that position, it's not necessarily openly pro-Moscow, but it's against, of this. This is a case where he's basically a prisoner of that situation. This is where I disagree with my friend Randy. I think he's too critical. I think, there's a lot of issues that the right can learn from Viktor and what he does at Fezes and what he's done in Hungary that are very interesting. I know a lot of my friends, people I know on Facebook and through various connections who are connected with I know a lot of people who, because of Roger Scruton's role in helping shaping the Danube Foundation, this is not just a Putin-esque project. It's more deep. It is that Putin has been able by the EU and these people making Hungary in the early 90s to abandon any real kind of alternative energy thing and go directly on Russia. Just put them in under not necessarily Fidesz government, but a democratic socialist governments with the old commies, decommunized communists, old communist elites who ruled Hungary right after the transition. They dug up Viktor Nagy, but no, they weren't nationalists. They were basically, we're bought out, we're all commie apparatchiks, and see the same thing at SLD in Poland. The old communists became anti-communist, but we're still kind of like a corrupt nonsense. Okay, this is, anyone who's been here long enough sees this kind of game for what it was. And that therefore something like Orban was a kind of a reaction to the corruption and the hypocrisy of what happened after transition. And a real nationalist revival and a very better, Viktor is a much better organized than PIS ever will be in that sense. So that's a very interesting thing in that sense. I have my problems with Viktor, but I can also Orban in that crowd. Therefore, I don't buy this kind of Freedom Coalition nonsense. Second of all, anyone who knows, yes, it's a broad tent, National Conservatives. Yes, there's integralists, but the integralists are not the whole of this. And I think the integralists I have issues with the integralists. And because it's a broad tent issue, that as long as the integralists can agree on national conservatism's goal of preserving its social. Remember, national conservatism is nationalism plus social conservatism. It is preserving the nation state, and it's populist in terms of its. This is where someone like Matthew Godwin's national populism book was. I think this is the intersection. It is a populism with nationalism with conservatism, particularly social conservatism, not libertarianism. The intersect of this. And this is the new fusionism. People who say, well, let's go back to the old fusionism. Well, fusionism was a principled compromise. Right, but it wasn't principled really. It was a compromise of the different factions. Let's work together because we share what our political ambitions are. What we have that we share is greater than what we disagree on. But over time, that differed. Fusionism was always tempered by the time and the debates and the intersection of the interests of the members. Fusionism fell apart with libertarians over Vietnam. The libertarians over Vietnam kind of bolted from that, but then they came back with dealing with the welfare state. In other words, we have to understand that each one of these, the conservative alliance in this alliance network, is always going to be a broad tent issue of different groups with different interests. And therefore, this is what's wrong with the kind of liberty I call the so-called liberty. First of all, as I say in when I talk about this in my Montesquieu thing, when I talk about Montesquieu, this chapter on liberty, when I talk about this, liberty is there's different understandings of liberty. There's liberty in terms of do I want versus. It is my friend, a guy, so I know it teaches it. Not Notre Dame. It was the Catholic school right above was in Worcester. Holy Cross. Philosophy guy I know there. He says, not the philosophy guy. He said that this is the distinction between what we call Isaiah Berlin's famous 4 types of freedom, right? That between positive freedom and the negative freedom, right? That the national conservatism spreads more on the positive freedom to do, freedom this, and the liberty manifesto wants to talk about individual freedom and economic freedom. And okay, I understand the liberty, positive, but I don't think the NatCons want to throw out individual liberty completely. They just understand that individual liberty must always be conforming to the social good, the common good. Oh my God, talk about the common good. Oh my God, that's horrible. That means we have to sacrifice my personal liberty for some. No, it's called law, baby. Unless you're an anarchist. Are you an anarchist, you guys, Mr. Roy? Are you an anarchist? Mr. Roy being an anarchist? Think that you have a right to ignore the law? You can only know the law if it's unjust, but if the purpose of a law is your benefit. This is benefit of the common benefit. This is the benefit of your of the society. That without the law, the system. You think, you think the rule of law is great, but no. Okay. So that was one of the things. I had a thing on the thing. So that was that one issue, and I had this the Jordan Peterson, Chris Lumford / Oliver Anthony thing was pretty interesting. Even though I think Peterson is not a good interviewer, he needs to shut up. Jordan Peterson is too much. Jordan Peterson always. He's not a good interviewer. He's not. Even though I don't like, I have my problems with Bill Kristol. Bill Kristol is a decent interviewer. He kind of backs away and lets the subject do things. He's not always making him the center of attention. Peterson always dominates to a point. And I saw this was especially the case with Victor Hansen and him when they had that thing. So it was a good, interesting thing. Those of you who've been following Oliver Anthony stuff, you should have seen him at Joe Rogan. That was a very good thing also. I'm not a big fan of Rogan. I always think Rogan is kind of like, it's kind of like too personal, garbage. A lot of inside baseball or inside gossip, kind of gossip, and sometimes they interview people who I just think, why would talk about this? This is not that interesting. But Anthony, to me, is a very interesting moment in that sense. So that's that. And the other thing I'll talk about, we'll end on this. The so-called internet slop wars. And I kind of, on Academic Agent's video about the slop wars, I kind of wrote some emails, comments on it. And I think he got me older. That's a typical American thing. I always love this. When someone says, you're a typical American, I say, is that an insult or a compliment? I don't know. I'm not, typical. The slop war. And I go, what is the slop war? It's about the Mexican. This is something happened because Salcon criticized Mexican food as slop versus British food. And that the progressive lefters who think everything, multiculturalism is great. Now, I actually lived in Texas for 2 years as going my graduate program. Once I went to Texas, once you actually have good Mexican food, it's a different world, and your eyes do get open. So, and I've been to Britain enough times and ate what is called a burrito or something Mexican, and it is slop. And I joked about that. I said, hey, your criticism here is, first of all, The argument is that, oh yeah, British food is great. By British food, they mean the traditional, older, upper. It's there's two British foods in this sense. There's the lower class food. The lower class food was always it was tea time. This is the tea time. This is not really a dinner. This is maybe there'd be one supper, a Sunday dinner. There'd be a former roast or pot roast. But that's Yankee pot roast. This would be a child New Englander. I'm a New Englander. Okay, I'm a New Englander. I have been shaped by English culture, English culture, English cuisine that was transferred over with the colonial period. So English Yankee pot roast. Okay, that what the working classes of England would have. And then maybe Christmas you'd get a proper turkey roast or a goose roast, right, for a major holiday or some Easter or something like that. Okay, and a roast was not a common feature, right? There was like this for the working classes. Working classes would have mostly, if they were in the cities, because near the rivers and things, lots of seafood. So fish and chips, right? That's, again, fish and chips. That's the British cuisine of the working classes. Fish and chippy. A porky pie, a pie crust with beef. Pork, ground pork, or mincemeat pie, too. Okay? By not, mincemeat might be ground beef with some ground pork, maybe combined. So there would be mincemeat, ground pork, ground thing together, cooked in a breaded pie. That was the working class food in that sense. And that's good. I mean, the other working class food would be a shepherd's pie. Well, not shepherd's. Shepherd's pie is the haleman made of lamb. Okay, stewed lamb with peas and carrots and then mashed potato on top of it. I grew up shepherd pie, or the other name, if it's with beef, it's cottage pie. So America, we had that in public schools in the 70s. We had it at school lunch, and it was hot. It was hot school lunch. But once a month or twice a month, you'd get shepherd's pie, which was beef, kind of beef gravy with on top of it would be mashed potato. That would be kind of like something that it was because of New England we had it. I still love it. This is when there was a restaurant, an Irish bar in Warsaw that the Irish guy made shepherd's pie. I loved it. And then we had business, and I was always scared. No, nothing. And the restaurant that tried to imitate him, it's like, oh, crap. And then I met I tried doing it. I never got it right. My wife, who's a better cook than I, much better cook than I. I gave her a present of Gordon Ramsay cookbook, and she paid. And I get now regularly shepherd's pie. So I'm not an enemy of British cuisine. There's the upper, what do we call it, the upper middle class, the higher the estate, the country estate people, which had more game available, but they also would have meat as well, and they'd have pork. So therefore, you'd have not only pies, beef, steak, and pie. All the other working class pie is a steak and kidney beans with steak. Okay, this is the again pie, a pie crust around it cooked with that, and that's the thing. That was the working class. Now the upper middle class had that same thing. They had their steak pies, beef pies like this. That's what they'd go on the hunt with that. They would go on a hunt with their beef and cake pies and have the garden lunch, and of course the English middle class, the gentry class. The upper middle, it's more than upper, it's the upper middle class and the lower aristocracy, or the non-titled, the second generation aristocracy, who non-titled. The Dalton Abbey crowd, right? You go watch what they ate. They had dinner every day. They had a proper dinner, a roast, a turkey, a chicken, fillets. They would have beef regularly, turkey, pork, or things like this. And a regular meal with some kind of vegetable platter, a soup. And it was always at like 4:00, 5:00. No, maybe later, 6, 7. Dinner. There'd be a lunch would be light. You'd have it breakfast. Maybe thinking of breakfast. You have breakfast, and you come in the breakfast have like this. Of course, the English breakfast, we had to, oh my God, there's everything like in a plate. Yeah, okay. But the English breakfast for the lower class was a plate like that, mess with everything in it. Mexican food is, yes, much more simple. Okay, and I love, say I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that I'm against that, but the truth of England today is not. You go to a working class thing today. They might have fish and chips and a pork pie, but those are rare. What is the dish that most Brits have? A curry. And trust me, a curry is worse slop. A British curry is worse slop than a Mexican slop on the greatest day. I mean, not the way they do it. The Brits, when they do Mexican food, it's vomit on the table. I want to throw it. I went to a restaurant and on the road trip back in 2001, 2002, with someone I used to be friends with, a Scottish guy who was driving. We drove up all the way from England to I saw Oxford, Cambridge. I saw my friend at Cambridge. Another friend at Cambridge. We went to Oxford. We went to Canterbury Cathedral. We just had over a week in the UK. We're driving by car. And I can tell you this: we stopped at a restaurant, and I saw nothing I really wanted over there. They didn't even have the British dishes, but they had a Mexican burrito, and I said, okay. I didn't want the other things. It was the only kind of beefy dish that everything was vegetarian. I didn't really like it, so I got this thing, and it was. This is not that. This is. Why is all this sauce on top of it? So, I mean, I can understand he's saying it's slop because it is slop. Now I'm over my wife. The sloppy aspect of it is really something that I understand. But curry is as bad, if not worse. And if you actually went to the Texas Southwest and had Tex-Mex, with tacos or fajitas, properly done fajitas. It's not slop. It's great. It's you have great sticks. Tex-Mex is interesting. You get brisket, which is what it's like. Brisket is marvelous. Die for. I wish I'm in Central Europe and I miss brisket. Never had it in my 20. I've been 20 years without a proper brisket. How can you say that? So. My position was this is why are you fighting the Brits? Why are you taking on the Mexicans? It's not. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Your cuisine is different. And then what AA does, he brings Evola and Julius Evola, which talks about the cuisine, about the American is how our bastardized place because they mix cuisines. No, it's evolutionary biology. So sorry, the English do the same thing. What you think about those steak and kidney pies, people there, all you guys who are saying about you love your Yorkshire puddings and your roast and that is Norman. Your Norman overlords gave that to you. The beef pies and those things. Your Norman overlords gave those to you. The potato. If it wasn't for the Americans, no potato, baby. How many of you actually would like the proper English mashed item is a parsnip? Parsnip. So don't have potatoes, you want to have a parsnip? Go ahead. How many of you would eat parsnip? Really? So no, don't laugh. You're just as you say Americans they mix all these inferior people's food with yours, this slop. No, we take what's good. We like it. We've innovated. We made the hamburger. The hamburger is what? It's not. It's a Salisbury steak is okay, but a hamburger is better. Okay, let's call a snake in that sense. Americans take a hybrid. I love the fact I grew up with English cuisine. I love it. I drive my wife crazy when I ask her to make me a steak pie. I love a steak pie. I love a steak pie. I love a beef roast. In fact, we often get a prime rib. That's a prime rib. I love getting prime ribs. I taught my wife how to make prime rib. Okay, which is something that you can get occasionally here. So yes, but that's Norman. That's the conquest of that thing. This is a very interesting aspect. I love my British English heritage in that sense, my food. But I also have Greek. I know that. I don't like a lot of Greek food. I can like a lot. I mean, too much seafood. I can't eat seafood. So that's that. And we're at the 15-minute mark, so I'm probably over this. The sophomores, I was like, kind of like, why are you doing this? Okay, I understand the politically correct people going, oh, how dare you criticize Mexico? Well, no. I would say, how dare you not really ate good Mexican, Tex-Mex? You think you have. You have English stuff. The English aren't, I mean, okay, maybe Gordon Ramsay and one or two good cooks, but that's not your typical fare and what you get at most of your stores and things. I still can't get good Italian sausage here. Stuff we had Italian sauce in America, you can't get that in Europe. We take things and American cuisine alters it and Americanizes it. Like, trust me, anyone who knows about General Chow's chicken knows that that's US of A as you can be, but it's a Chinese idea Americanized and made into perfection. Oh, but it's like, it's my God. I was with my friend did my guy who's from Texas. I know he's a retired colonel in the Army, retired from War College. He's my Facebook buddy, and he showed a wonderful thing. I even said this jokingly to them. I said, "You ever had a stuffed jalapeno, cream cheese, battered breaded?" Well, my friend did it better. He put brisket bacon over the stuffed jalapeno thing. Deep fried. Ooh, that's like with a couple of, I mean, I agree with them. I don't like beer, but I have a nice cider. I love British cider. Can't get it at all to save myself. But, that's the thing. I'm sympathetic to their position that, yes, British cuisine is great and people should celebrate it. And maybe in Britain, people should return to it and avoid dump curry. Yes, dump curry. But that's, pick on the Mexicans. How many Mexicans are in England? Why are you picking on Mexicans, picking on Americans? Because Americans like Mexican food and say, how backwards, Evola is wrong. I even said this in my comment. Evola's understanding of this is wrong. Evola, who argues for cultural homogeneity, that's death. Too much homogeneity, a culture becomes stagnant. You need diversity and diversity, not because you need total diversity. You need significant homogeneity, enough. This is the great insight from Robert Putnam's work. If you understand, excessively homogeneity leads to stagnation. That's why in biology, if you inbreed the same people, you become dumber and weaker. The purebred animals are the dumbest, not the smartest or the healthiest, the weakest and the stupidest. So a culture that adopts, not that it succumbs and loses itself, but expropriates. That was the greatness of Rome. The greatness of a great culture is not its purity, but its vitality, that it can preserve the heart of its elements. How Christianity eventually does lose Rome its heart, and it ceases to be what it was. But a culture, what is as long as it maintains this dominant conception, it does it, and it does so, but at the same time adapts. And adapts to its advantage. Okay, this is the height of things. Now we're at I'm 15 minutes over. I say bye. If you like this, like it, share it, subscribe. I don't hope to see a lot of things. I'm going to expect people to say, "Oh, what have you done here?" If you have any comments or please put topics down. You're saying you want to do this, and you keep on saying, "Oh, I wish you had more live streams and things like this." People say to me, they email me or something, that put a comment like this. Well, I'm doing this regularly for you guys. I might just change the time. I can't do it later. I might do it earlier, but that's going to be here and there. Please put comments, questions, topics you want to do. If you liked it, like it. Didn't like it, don't like it. If you have any want to not subscribe. If you can follow me in social media, links below, my academic social media links below. You want to help me do what I will, you can subscribe, start Patreon, either way. I haven't seen anyone do it, so what can I say? It's like, oh my God, You can buy my books. One of my books. You want to help me around? You can buy it for a friend or buy it for someone you know. That's it. Again, starting next week, we'll do Rousseau's Social Contract. You'll see my beard for my pre-recorded video, and one of the Schmidt videos would be like this. And Schmidt's parliamentarianism. That's it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, social contract. Tuesday, Thursday, this, and Friday will be messing around or a super live stream. We'll see what happens. Take care. Bye bye. Have a good weekend. Take care.